Three, two, one.
What's up, everyone? Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture, April 17th, 2019. We're going to discuss the LTC BTC pair. Maybe some clues lie ahead there. I'd say if you want to kind of get an idea of what this video will be about, probably a little bit more to the downside, scenarios to the downside, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It plays into our long-term charts. It plays into what we've been talking about on this channel. But let's jump into the charts and talk about what I am talking about. How about that? Bitcoin on the daily chart. So right now, before we get to the LTC BTC chart and discuss these clues that I'm talking about, I want to point out on the Bitcoin chart for context, in case you've missed a recent video talking about this, a retracement, potential retracement for Bitcoin after some nice gains, a retracement down to this 50 moving average area, this upper trend line area of this long-term ascending triangle that we broke out of. If you've been watching my technical analysis, you know I'm usually keen on revisiting those breakout areas, right? Those trend lines to conservatively see and evaluate if there will be support there. Because if there's support there, that's a more conservative and bullish sign, right? So that's what I look out for in terms of accumulating dips. That's one of the things I look out for. So with that being said, for Bitcoin, and this is the context that I want to offer you before we jump into LTC pair, BTC pair, is this. If Bitcoin does that, we're talking, 18 to around 21% or so to the downside from where it's at. Right now, if we look at Bitcoin, after some nice gains, is kind of just potentially forming this broadening rising wedge is something I'm tracking. And so two things. Bitcoin can, right now, break through this white trend line here that you see on the screen, which, if you've been watching, this extends back into like April of 2018. So we can break back down through that support. We can break the 200 moving average support, and we can revisit this area. Or on the short term, Bitcoin can continue an uptrend and hit the top of this rising wedge, broadening wedge. And you can see there's room for that to happen on both the stock RSI, this middle oscillator here, as well as even the RSI, this slower moving oscillator. So it's definitely potential that this right now on the RSI is just a higher low, and Bitcoin is bouncing off of it and may continue in an uptrend back into that overbought area on the RSI. It's something to keep an eye out on, but this is why we do charts, right? We look for support to be broken and we look for targets to be hit. But what I want to talk about is LTC BTC pair. So we talked about that potential to revisit the lower trend line, right? So the upper trend line on this ascending triangle right here, the 50 moving average, around 20% to the downside. So LTC BTC pair. Now looking to Litecoin for some clues. Right now, Litecoin is at kind of this area of average resistance. If you look out throughout the years here, Litecoin is at this area of average resistance, really. I didn't mark it out exactly, but it really is, kind of seeing heavy resistance. And it's very typical for Litecoin against the LTC BTC pair. So if Litecoin, and we can look at the RSI too for illustration of this resistance, oversold area, oversold area, oversold area, kind of just bounces right back down, right? So if Litecoin continues that trend, two things. Number one, to the downside for Litecoin, from where we are right now, we're talking around 25 to 26% to the downside. And that measurement right there is to an area that I'm extremely interested in seeing what happens. That is the 50 moving average on the weekly chart. So while in the short term, a 25% downside for Litecoin on the LTC BTC pair is not good, right? You might think about it as negative. It could be extremely bullish. It could be a really good setup in telling the story of Litecoin and its continued strength in the cryptocurrency markets. So what that might look like is 50 moving average support on the weekly chart and a bounce off of that area, right? Back up could be the beginning of Litecoin really beginning to break an all-time high on the LTC BTC pair. So in other words, it would be a higher low from its swing low back in January, December time, and it could be a really nice setup for Litecoin. But it really does play into that storyline of if Bitcoin decides to kind of consolidate back down and retest the upper trend line or the 50 moving average. Now, the 50 moving average is probably one of our most important areas that we talk about on this channel, and it's mainly what we're talking about in this video. There's so many other indicators. I'm trying to keep this video short, so we're just going to talk about that one. But that's really what we're looking at. 20% downside for Bitcoin, 25% downside for LTC on the LTC-BTC pair. It all plays into a scenario of retracement right now. And so it's something to really consider and be ready for. It's not like I'm sitting here calling that to happen, but it's extremely possible. And again, for Bitcoin, retracement to that 50 moving average, not bad thing, especially if we see support, could be extremely bullish and really could be the beginning of getting this 50 moving average cross above the 200 moving average that everybody wants. Like always, these things take patience and they take time. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. I will say this, maybe Bitcoin has some legs, right? Maybe we kind of see another 18% to the top of this rising wedge here. But either way, whether it's now, whether it's then, Bitcoin is going to revisit. Bitcoin is going to have another conversation with this 50 moving average down here. If you look at the history of Bitcoin, bull market or bear market, it is always revisiting and having a conversation with that 50 moving average, the blue line. So use that as an incredibly important tool for the way that you accumulate. Use the data that's out there. Don't listen to YouTubers. I'm not throwing out financial advice right here, but it's just the data is so consistent, especially with this moving average on the daily chart for Bitcoin. So definitely anticipate that retracement to that area, but most importantly, look for support in that area. That would be extremely bullish. This is, like I said, it's going to be more downside than upside in this video, but I really wanted to just kind of show you what I'm looking at on the charts. Some good clues. Let me know your thoughts below. I hope you're doing well and having an amazing week. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you as part of the channel. I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day and God bless.